I knew he was struggling before he admitted it out loud. We had barely made it 3 minutes down the road when my husband slowed down, started breathing heavier, and waved his hand for us to stop, as though he suddenly spotted something fascinating at the neighbor's recycling bin. It wasn't dramatic. No clutching of the chest, no panic, just a small, quiet surrender that said more about age than about fitness. I kept on walking, slowly, pretending to look for the birds in the trees so he could collect himself without an audience. He doesn't enjoy being watched in a moment of weakness. And, to be honest, most of us don't. Aging has a way of making everything slightly more private, especially the things that used to feel effortless. But this wasn't the beginning. The beginning happened a week earlier in a doctor's office that felt too bright and too silent for what we were to hear. The doctor didn't sugarcoat anything. He didn't dramatize either. He simply lay out the reality, like a mechanic talking about an engine that has been neglected for too long. Stamina, lungs, sleep, weight, smoking, inflammation. All the invisible things that accumulate quietly over the years. My husband nodded the whole time, with that polite expression men often use when they are being told something they already know but would rather not discuss. The doctor asked questions about his habits, how long he'd been smoking, how much weight he gained, how many hours he slept, how often he exercised. That one is a joke. There is something humbling about having to quantify your decline. Nobody enjoys that part. He didn't say you are in trouble. He didn't give deadlines. He just said something very simple. It gets harder after 60. Change becomes more expensive for the body. We've both heard it. But we didn't talk about it. Not in the car, not at home, not that evening. We do what long married couples do when something enormous enters the home. We avoid and tend to some small task. He made tea and stared out of the kitchen window. I answered emails I didn't care about. The unsaid things sat between us like a sleeping dog. The actual reckoning happens 3 o'clock in the morning, the hour when most adults finally stop pretending. I woke up for water, as one did at this age, and found him sitting at the dining room table with the lamp on, scrolling his computer. Not really reading anything. He didn't look up when I walked in. He just said, I think I need to make a change. Not a speech, not a promise, just a sentence. And sentences are how change begins for grown-ups. Not motivation, not inspiration, not adrenaline, just choosing a sentence and say it out loud. The next morning we made a plan. A tiny one, almost embarrassing simple. Read more, walk more, order less. That was it. No gym membership, no transformation program, no wearable tech, no diet evangelism, no 12-week challenge, just 3 verbs in a life that had been running on autopilot for too long. The reading came first. You need to remember, smoking had been his ritual, not just his addiction. People misunderstand that part. Cigarettes occupy time, silence, hands, this hand moving from bottom to mouth, nerve transitions. If you remove the cigarettes without replacing the ritual, you create a void large enough for frustration to settle comfortably. Books become the replacement, not because books saves lives, but because books keeps your hands busy and your mind focused. He sat there with a mug of tea and a novel, trying to convince himself that turning pages could be as satisfying as lighting a cigarette. The first day was chaos. He fidgeting, sighed, checked his phone, cleaned the workbench, moved tools around, scrolled the news, ignored the book, and eventually surrendered to boredom. But the book stayed, and that boredom is deeply underrated. Boredom is where curiosity gets a second chance. Then came the walking. Walking sounds innocent until you haven't done it for years. The first time we stepped outside felt like the start of an expedition. We didn't have a destination, so the neighborhood became our circuit. We walked past houses we had driven past for 15 years without ever noticing. My pace is naturally faster than his. His isn't. I slowed down. He tried to speed up. Couples negotiate speed long before they negotiate anything meaningful. By day 3, he discovered the social surveillance system that exists in suburban streets, the neighbors policing fast food deliveries. Every time a scooter roared past, curtains twitch. Communities may not solve crimes, but they always solve gossip. Convenience is one of the most stubborn addictions of modern adulthood. Ordering food is not just about hunger. It's about not washing dishes. It's about not deciding what to cook. It's about bypassing responsibility for one more night. Removing that convenience was possibly harder for him than removing the cigarettes. Oh, and the cravings kicked in on day 6. Not for nicotine, but for the routine. Routine is a powerful thing. Evening snacking, light up that cigarette, late night eating, coffee or tea as entertainment. All these small habits line up like dominoes. Remove one and all wobble. The irritation phase arrived shortly after. Oh boy, how bad. It always does. Change has its changes. Excitement, resistance, bargaining, irritation, resignation, routine. Irritation is the gateway. If you can get through irritation, you have a chance. He grumbled. He complained that walks weren't doing anything. He didn't feel fitter. He didn't feel motivated. That nothing dramatic was happening. Adults have been conditioned to believe that change must come with visible results. Before and after photos, dramatic success stories, applause. But boredom is the real turning point for transformation. Boredom is where habits go either to die or to become automatic. The real turning point did not come on a walk, but in our lounge. I don't know why I can't just wake up and feel motivated, he said. Not angrily, not dramatically, but with genuine confusion. And I said, maybe motivation isn't the point. Maybe the point is not to do it, even if you don't feel like it. He didn't respond, just put on his walking shoes. And that was it. That was the pivot. Not cinematic, not inspirational, just deeply adult. After that, routine took over. We finished chapters. We walk around the block. The scooter slowed down. The craving softens. He didn't transform in a fitness guru. He just became someone who could participate in his own life again. Reading reintroduced curiosity. We don't talk enough about adulthood starved curiosity. We trade wonder for efficiency. Books reminded him that there are still stories worth entering, ideas worth tasting, characters worth arguing with. He began recommending chapters to me the way he once recommended political commentaries. That was charming. And walking reintroduced observation. When you walk, you notice everything. The retired couple repainting the same section of wall. The teenager practicing skateboard tricks. The dog who barks at everyone except the postman. The jacarandas straining the pavement purple. And the neighbor who narrates her phone calls as though she's on stage. On day 19, my husband said something he hadn't said in years. I think I slept better. Sleep is the last victory in a health journey. They never arrive first. It creeps up once your body starts believing it has permission to rest again. By week 3, the walks become shorter but more frequent. The reading moved from the patio to the bedside table. The cravings lost their edge. The evenings shifted from snacking to herbal tea. Not because we became saints, we didn't, but because comfort began to take a different form. We didn't talk about hope, but hope made itself known anyway. Not the flashing kind that requires speeches and goals and transformation charts. That quiet kind that whisper, maybe the future is still negotiable. One evening, after a walk, we came home, kicked off our shoes, boiled the kettle and sat on the couch without turning on the television. He picked up his book. I picked up mine. There was no triumphant music, no breakthrough monologue, just two people reclaiming a small corner of their own life. If you ask me what the reward was, I wouldn't say weight loss or stamina or discipline. The real reward was participation. We were no longer waiting for life happening to us. We were happening to life again. One book, one walk, one decision at a time. And that is what transformation looks like at this age. Not drama, not reinvention, just participation and hope. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like and share it with someone who needs it. Thank you for watching.